we need to accelerate. Welcome, 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 everyone, to Online Presenters. We are an advanced Toastmasters Club. Our mission is to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. I'm your Sergeant at Arms, Dr. Sunny. To our guests, a warm welcome. We're thrilled by your interest in visiting our club. All requests for membership are subject to approval by our club. Please note, we're recording this meeting. Your video and audio contributions may be used for club marketing purposes. However, we're an opt-in club. If you choose not to be a part of the visuals or audio, check the comments in the chat to opt out.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask everybody to look in the chat for the background, and hopefully we can all coordinate and utilize this one moving forward. So that segues into special events. Our next meeting, Jenny and Gabby don't know. This is going to be a tool for Annie to teach us how to bring our props to life. Like I said, we need to build Susie's fan club because she's awesome. Right, Annie? With that, everyone, I am going to be asking us to unmute, get our vocal cords ready. Yesterday was the birthday of our Sergeant at Arms. And as you know, it's always a great thing when we call out the Online Presenters Choir. Everybody unmute while we sing our Sergeant at Arms happy birthday. Ready after 3, 1. We have someone who completed his level 1. Now, I know it's kind of facetious for you to present it to yourself, and it's a lot of the times why I don't when I've completed it as well. Whenever you get the role of Vice President Education, you tend to complete the level, but you don't get the award because you don't make the award because you're Vice President of Education. So I don't have the certificate to present to him, but I will say congratulations, Graham.
The theme for today's meeting is, as you have heard, checks and balances. You may wonder why I chose checks and balances. Well, it was in fact on this day but it's also interesting that there are very few countries in the world that still use checks as a financial institution. Almost impossible to cash a check in Australia, for example. Nobody has a checkbook. On the various roles that take place in a Toastmasters meeting. We will have a prepared presentation, an extended prepared presentation from Kritika a little later. We will have evaluations, because evaluations are the cornerstone of the Toastmasters experience. If we don't get feedback, if we don't get timekeeper for today, and that's Andrew Byrne. Andrew will be giving us an indication of the times, and I will be announcing the times before each event. But Andrew, can you give us under react? That would be good. There you go. And that keeps you in the top left-hand corner. That's why we do that, by the way. It's one way of making sure that the timekeeper remains where they are supposed to be. All right, thank you. Our next person that I'd like to introduce is our grammarian, Sherry Blake. And Sherry, can you also, while you're telling us what you'll be doing as grammarian, introduce the word of the day? Not usual in a Toastmasters meeting, except in an online meeting, and even then not in most online meetings, is the role of watcher. Jim Barber, can you tell us what you will be doing as watcher? What you up to? A role that is not exclusive to this club, but is only used in online or hybrid meetings, is that of the chat monitor. One of the problems is that as Toastmaster, I'm not always able to keep tab of what's happening in the chat. So we have a chat monitor. Well, I'm not going to take over too much. I'm in fact going to allow Sunny to tell us what the chat monitor will do. The man who sets up the website that we use, as well as was the foundation president of this club, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, here he is. He says he's unbalanced, but not when he's counting votes. David, how are you going to count the votes tonight? Kritika Devi Venkataram is going to today, this morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are, she's going to be presenting a speech that combines the introduction to mentoring and also the advanced mentoring in Toastmasters speeches. Those are two separate projects. One is, as you know, a level 2 speech, the Toastmasters Introduction to Mentoring, but there is then a mentoring subpath.
This speech is about mentoring, not just about mentoring, the reverse mentoring as well. How do you perceive and how others perceive when you are a mentor? So that's an intermediate person who used to transmit information between Bob and Julie. And he is also a transporter kind of person, a transporter kind of person who used to carry uh, Julie in her during her way to the office. Disastrous travel she had, traveling all over 50 to 60,000 miles far away. She did not have a good sleep, good nap, good food. There isn't anybody to console her. There's a people around her. It was more than like a software oriented architecture. It was more than hardware. It was more than software. It was more than the firmware. It was just the architecture, base architecture, without any uh, uplifted cantilever that the project was hanging around. Never. It can't be. Because this is a project which cannot work out. There are certain pitfalls in it, and this project is not going to be of revenue to us, to as an organization. And this information was hidden. Exactly the information was hidden by Bob. It cannot happen. No, it is not the way. The architecture is perfect. I can get it right with the code that I have completed it, and you can also check it and verify it with the hardware that we have. The hardware is also working fine. I have cross-verified it with this. It's working. The Firun started. They celebrated with enthusiasm. But there was a linchpin here. They did not reveal that this will not have this, though completed, will not be continued into the organization, and it will be discharged out of the organization. That will have less value, economic value to the organization. As a queen bee working to collect the honey in a beehive, the essence of the beehive was segregated, dissolved, and the honey was given to the different organization that the mentee had worked with a mentor. This information, a bit shocking to the mentee.
Holding yourself accountable, let's get some accountability, is a perfectly balanced life actually boring?
It's a little bit boring from my perspective. For me, I did something a little bit different. When I was in Hong Kong 5 years ago, I decided to go on a different route. I work every day and get what work. I did yoga. I felt that it was too balanced of my life that I need to take some adventures. That's why I broke that balance. And at the end, eventually I come to this country. I know new people and then I broke my boundaries and then I don't have my balanced life anymore because sometimes I overwork myself. Sometimes I go to different country. When I visit different countries and often I will have a lot of time jet lag. I don't have a balanced life anymore.
Can a system have too many checks and balances leading to gridlock?
Well, I keep my checks and balances quite simple. Life is very hectic and it has always been. And maybe I need that. But to balance out, I ask for help when I need help and I get everyone involved.
My next question is for Ivy. Ivy, let's have a little confab. If you had a personal assistant whose only job was to veto your bad ideas, what's the first thing they would tell you no?
So trying to keep a good balance of what you can do and be accountable for that. That also makes you feel better about yourself because at the end of the day, if you had 3 items on your to-do list and you did all of them, it's like...
Who do I want to confab with next? Jenny. Jenny, what is the hardest balancing act you've had to perform in your personal life?
Of course, create that balance between my health and that takes around 3 things: exercise, eating healthy, meditation. You are in and the part of the economy, but at these 3 points, actually, I'm doing it step by step, little by little, and progressing every day 1%. Back to you.
My next question is going to be for Sunny. In a relationship, friendship, or business partnership, what is the check to ensure one person doesn't hold all the power?
I'm the one who thinks she has the power, but I've learned over the years, women don't always have to have the power, but we can also have the influence. And I think influence, John Maxwell says that.
Thank you for that, Sunny. In Jamaica, we have a phrase that says, man of the head, but woman of the neck. And don't worry, I'll translate.
Evaluations to the speeches and many things in our life. Bearing that in mind, I'm just going to brief you on what's going to happen in the third part. We'll have one evaluator evaluating a critique of speech. Then I will pass the stage to auxiliary roles that we have a number of people taking part. And the third, I will just give.
We could all see how prepared Kritika was. I could see immediately that we came onto the room because she was standing up. Well and thoughtfully that you had prepared that. You also had a long speech that was well committed to memory. I could see an occasional glancing of notes, but not much. So we had again this sense that Kritika was very well prepared for what we were about to hear. And she had a novel twist by combining a level 2 mentoring speech with something at a higher level. And she did that by way of a case study. So it wasn't just theory about mentoring, mentor, mentee. It was a case study of Bob and Julie. So that gave us more of a hook to think, well, this is going to be two different characters here. What actually is going to happen? How are they different? How do they evolve? And so on. I have to be honest to say that, because otherwise I would have adored to get a little bit further into the structure and really sort of talk about that. But I won't, because that may be entirely unfair, because there were a couple of key points I was missing there, and I don't want to inaccurately say things that I didn't quite catch. If we'd had seen you moving, being Bob here a bit lower, and being Julie here a bit whatever, that would have helped get around some of those issues of us trying to catch every word. So less words, a linchpin, and the metaphor of collecting honey from the beehive. So there's some beautiful language that I was catching in there that I so very much enjoyed. So in summary, great that you were creative to combine two levels. You had wove it around a story.
So I caught two people using the word accountability, and because it's such a widely used, easy word to incorporate into your speeches, I'm sure more than just two people used it, but I did catch Graham and Ivy using it.
A standard recommendation for the club, but just something I would like you to consider, is that possibly we can overdo the standardization, and possibly we should move toward a little more personalization at the same time. Just my thought. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Who said that he's a quick confab. I forgot to say that I'll be accountable for ensuring everyone's visual presence. So there. And he was alluding to the fact there were not one, but two words of the day today. So that was funny. Then again, as I said, please look in the chat. A helpful thing is the background that does get popped up in case you're having trouble with your background. So thank you for that, Kurthika. And I also noted that in response to one of talked about, what did he talk about? He talked about eating a frog. That led to a very intense confab by me saying I heard frog's legs were good. And then I think it was, let's see, Carrie Kong, who, Graham said.
We had everybody speaking appropriately during the table topics and evaluation. So everybody held accountable to the agenda, which normally should be focusing on how we utilize our time, and the agenda allows all of us to see what the time.
I would like to praise our Toastmaster of the day together with our table topics master. A few more facts, interesting facts, as you, Graham, started with about the check. In the 17th century in England, it's about £400. Perhaps maybe a couple of more interesting tips. that would go through the meeting.
Thank you, General Evaluator Andre. And thank you, everybody, for your contributions. I'll be handing over to the President shortly for guest comments. But before we do, a few things about checks. And I know that we said we weren't going to be talking about checks as checks rather than checks as balances. But in July 2021, that's 5 years ago. In Europe, most European countries have almost entirely eradicated check usage. Finland, for example, stopped using them in 1993. Netherlands in 2001. Denmark only in 2017. Crikey, that's less than 9 years ago. But in the UK, while checks are still in circulation, check usage is rare. Most major retailers stopped accepting them around 2005. I remember paying for my groceries by check. Checks and balances are something that we all need to deal with. One of those checks and balances is to make sure that we don't run out of time by talking too much. And so I'm going to hand control of the meeting now to our President for guest comments and observations from El Prez. Here's Johnny.
Next week, we're having an educational feature, and it's going to be an amazing one. And it's a good opportunity to showcase online presenters. So a good opportunity to invite people in to see how much they can learn by being a part of online presenters. And our very own Annie Martin will be the one taking us through that educational